Welcome to another episode of Ingrid's World. I'm Ingrid Paris-Hicklin. I'm the show executive director and producer of Ingrid's World. Well, on this show, meet Mark Cooke, current ambassador for ShelterBox USA. He's an Army veteran who played the trumpet with the first U.S. Army Band and the 202nd Kentucky National Guard Band. Mark has served on several nonprofit boards in support of his local community, including the Gainesville Haymarket Rotary Club. Well, welcome to the show, Mark Cooke.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're here, and let's have you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm retired about a year ago from financial advisory. I owned a financial advisory firm that I was in the financial advisory industry for about 21 years. I was a music minister before that, and trumpet player, professional trumpet player. And as you mentioned, got started with the First Army Band and Kentucky National Guard Band. And just really love doing that. But my passion now is giving back through nonprofit opportunities. And that's why I'm glad to be here to share some information about one that's really close to my heart.
So how did you get involved in ShelterBox?
Well, ShelterBox is an official partner of Rotary International. Mm-hmm. So the former ambassador came to our club a couple of times to share about ShelterBox, and I was very touched by it. And the last time he shared, he was talking about he was getting older and needed to retire and find somebody to replace him. At the same time, I was in my retirement glide path, slowly slowing my career down, and I always felt like I needed to retire to something, not just from something. So I just felt led to check into it, and the more I found out about ShelterBox, the more it resonated with me, and just really glad that I came on board to help support and get the word out in our area.
It really is wonderful, and you're getting the word out about this important activity, but it's really I think it's saving lives. So on slide 3, we're looking at a ShelterBox. So tell us, what is a ShelterBox?
Well, basically, it is the main ShelterBox comes with a tent, a very sturdy tent that can last for years. We hope they don't have to live in it for a year. But it comes weather conditioned for colder weather or warmer weather, depending on where it's needed. In the box is cooking utensils, blankets, water filters, mosquito nets, solar lights, a small toolkit. So basically anything a family might need to quickly set up emergency shelter.
Wow. So what's the vision of a ShelterBox? Because I saw that you had your vision up there. What's the vision of a ShelterBox?
The vision is for a world where no family is without shelter when disaster strikes. Ooh. So what really hit me was understanding that shelter is the primary need after a disaster or a refugee conflict. That's even more important than food. As long as they have water, they just need a place to feel at home, and that's where we focus on, to give them a shelter.
Excellent, excellent. So, and I think that that's so important, that it gives them a home. Oh my goodness. So when did actually ShelterBox start? How long has it been around?
This is a great story because it started in the year 2000 from a Rotary Club in Lizard, England, who wanted to do a millennial project in the year 2000. So their goal was to send 10 or 15 kits of tents and things every year. And that's kind of a nice Rotary project. Well, it just took off, and then Rotary Club a few years later in Lakeland, Florida, got excited, and they built the USA ShelterBox, and now it's regions around the world. And it just made huge impacts now.
Are you kidding me? So that's really how it started, just in 2000.
Yes, we're celebrating this year our 25th anniversary. In fact, going to New Orleans in April for a conference that anybody's invited to celebrate the 25 years of serving people around the world.
Oh, so you told us what's in a shelter box. Tell about the different shelter boxes that are created.
That's a great question, because what we have found over time is that every situation is different. So we have a team that goes in right after a disaster or in conflict areas, where we can assess what the needs are, how to get the equipment there, what equipment they need, do they need the full tent, do they just need repair kits? And then we send in unique, customized pallets of resources depending on that need. So one of the first things we did outside the shelter box was the shelter kit. Now the shelter kit is to help people to get back into their homes that maybe their homes weren't totally destroyed. It comes with heavy-duty tarpaulins, ropes, heavy-duty tools, fasteners, and we locally source like corrugated metal for roofs, with the goal of getting them back into their primary shelter as soon as possible.
Wow, which is like pretty, which is pretty wonderful. So we're looking at a structure, I guess what is a structure that's coming from a shelter box, and it has a garden outside of it, is like a patio. So where would this be? Where is this photograph from?
This was a few years ago in Cameroon. Which is, has a lot of needs. And this is where the tent was not needed, but this was a home that was destroyed, but the foundation and the framing was still there. So they took the shelter kit, and you can see the tarpaulins that were tacked up. They used the toolkit and the fasteners that came with it. And then we provided the sheet metal for the roofs and the sides, and they were able to get up and running back into their home very quickly.
Oh my goodness. So that's wonderful. So it's not like one size fits all, but it's made unique for that particular setting. Wow.
That's exactly right.
Wow. And so let's talk about where we can find a particular shelter box. You have there's another one, and it's young people look like they're walking through a village, and where is this shelter box located?
That is a village in a conflict zone. So we started responding to disasters, but we found out that we could take what we learned through our disaster response and help in conflict zone. There are hundreds of millions of people now displaced because of conflicts. And this is sort of a tent city where a farmer outside of Syria donated land for us to come in to put these tents together. And these refugees don't know when, if ever, they'll get back to their home country or their hometowns. So this is one way that we can set up to give them security and at least find a place that they can call home for a while.
Oh, that just, So, living here in the United States, and then you see this being set up, boy, that tugs at my heart, and, again, makes the work that you're doing so important. We're looking also at a map now that has lots of different things. So explain the map to us.
Okay. Now, this map is updated regularly on our website, shelterboxusa.org, and you can go in and see where the current deployments are. So the color codes are that they're either getting set up, they're assessing, or they're evaluating, but all these different colors are places where we're currently serving. Some of them are because of disasters, and others are because of conflict. And people really love to to go to the website to see where ShelterBox is currently working. In fact, on the page that shows this, you can scroll down and go country by country to see exactly what we're doing in each country.
Wow, and so you can scroll down and see. Well, Mark, we brought a video. You sent us a video, and can you introduce the video that we're going to watch?
Yes, thank you. I love this video. The people I really admire are the volunteers that actually respond after a disaster. I stay here in the U.S. I talk to Rotary clubs and to people to tell them about ShelterBox. But these people are volunteers that go through extensive training, and then they go out into the field. And this video, obviously, you'll see, was recorded in England, and they shared their experiences of being a ShelterBox response team member.
Well, that's wonderful. All right. Well, everyone, please stay right there. You're going to see a really moving video.
How's that?
Bit more that way.
So yeah. Right central then, blooming heck. God blimey.
God, that sounds like an exam question.
It could be an earthquake.
A flood.
A cyclone.
Refugees fleeing a war zone.
At ShelterBox, we make sure that no family goes without shelter.
The first thing is to mobilise our response teams to get aid.
It doesn't happen like that. It starts much earlier.
Before a disaster happens,
we make sure we're ready to respond.
Careful planning saves time and money.
It's unglamorous, practical stuff like logistics
and visas.
Agreements with governments and partners.
Shipping aid 6 months in advance is way cheaper than flying it in last minute.
Training volunteers.
Testing, developing, refining.
So we're ready for anything.
Then disaster happens.
I get the call.
Drop everything.
There's a very short timescale for actually getting ready.
I've got to make sure that there's somebody there to feed the cat. You have to take time off from your job.
I have a very understanding set of friends and family.
We aim to get to the hard-to-reach places.
Tuk-tuks.
Helicopters.
Boats.
Bikes.
Tractors and trailers and trucks. 5-hour hike carrying 100 boxes.
We will do whatever it takes to get to the people that need us.
No matter how much planning we do, there are always hold-ups outside of our control.
24 hours held up getting documents signed.
Broken bridges.
No fuel for our vehicles.
Lack of access.
Phone infrastructure can be down.
Safety concerns. Dealing with bureaucracy.
Not everybody has the same sense of urgency that we have.
It can be massively frustrating.
You want to be out there and you want to be active.
But we've got to ensure that it's not just about getting the aid in, it's getting it in safely, it's ensuring that it's the right thing to do for that particular community or at that particular time.
That's why we do so much planning up front.
We learn from delays.
We're always working to save time.
We travel to the hard-to-reach places.
Overcome obstacles.
And help people that others can't or won't.
Well, that video was just wonderful because it really inspires us, and I love the humor that's shown in it, that, about how it got started. And thank you. I couldn't figure out where England fell into this, story until you explained, well, that's actually where it started. And that's pretty powerful. So a viewer is out there and saying, oh my goodness, this is how I want to make a difference. What's step one? How do I get involved?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I would suggest going to the website, shelterboxusa.org/volunteer. Mm-hmm. And there you can find several areas of volunteering, anywhere from, if you're a Rotarian, to be a club champion for your group, to become an ambassador. You don't have to be a Rotarian to be an ambassador, to share the information and being trained on that. There's also treks like mountain climbing, bicycle rides, all that kind of stuff that brings attention to ShelterBox. That they usually do that 2 or 3 times a year. So you can find all that information there on the website.
You know, that's really, really very important to know how to get involved. The other aspect of it, too, is, tell us about the USA. You know, what are we doing here? Is it ShelterBox USA? And let's talk about
yes.
that.
Thank you. So a lot of countries around the world have their own affiliates. So, but we all go back toward the ShelterBox Trust, International Trust, which is out of Cornwall, England, but USA is an affiliate. And one of the questions that a lot of people ask me, well, do you respond to the disasters in the US? Normally, the answer is no. And the reason is we have a very specific timeline and decision tree of where we respond to the most difficult areas, the hardest to reach areas. And of course, the US has FEMA and other organizations. But recently, we were really touched by the disaster after the hurricane in Western North Carolina. And we had the resources to send some solar lamps and some tents, and we even gifted over $100,000 to support the relief efforts there. And then the LA fires that we just experienced, one of our ambassadors lost their home in the LA fire. Our USA headquarters is in Santa Barbara, California. We couldn't help but respond. So we worked with Amazon Foundation, got hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment donated that we distributed to so many people that lost their homes. Unfortunately, it was just a drop in the bucket, but we did what we could there.
And I think that that's what's important, is that people, you know, will do what they can, you know, and you don't turn a blind eye, you get involved. And what I really enjoy about what you're saying, Mark, is it's not, let's say, well, this is what we do and this is what we don't do, but it seems like you have like a whole process. You're examining it really closely and then finding out where there is a match. So Mark, what gives you the greatest joy of being involved in ShelterBox?
Well, it's kind of a joy and it's a challenge at the same time. There is probably now around 150 million displaced people in our world right now that need shelter. And that's really the burden. The joy is, in these 25 years, we've been able to shelter over 3 million people. And we've been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize twice because of our work in Syria and the conflict there. We've been in Syria for over 10 years. And that just gives me all kind of joy that we're really touching lives.
Wow. Am I correct? I just jotted down that you have been able to help 3 million people?
Can you imagine? That came out of this little club, you know, 25 years ago, wanted to do 10 or 15 tents a year. Now it's 3 million.
And so how you're able to do your work is it mainly, you know, you have the website, you know, you're looking for partners. How do you generate the funds that you need to get these pallets of equipment to the different countries?
That's a great question. Obviously, we are a nonprofit. So a lot of Rotary, because Rotary International, we're official partner, they don't give us money, but I go to Rotary clubs to raise money, and we have hero clubs that we honor that raise money. We have a lot of corporate backers and a little of government support. So we have the home office is really always reaching out to corporations and clubs and things like that to raise awareness and to fund the wonderful work that we do around the world.
You know, it would be a wonderful thing is that there would be no need for ShelterBox because we would be taking care of one another.
Yes, exactly.
That would be a wonderful thing. But what I have to say is that what you're doing is such important work because one thing is for sure, this is really needed and it's incredible. So in terms of the next steps. So Mark, you're doing this. What keeps you motivated? Because I have to be honest with you, Mark, it doesn't sound like easy work. And you said this is what you did after retirement? I thought you're supposed to be on cruises.
Well, I do that too, and I have a story about a cruise that last year I was on a cruise and I went to get a pedicure.
Okay.
So as I was doing the pedicure, the young lady doing the pedicure was from the Philippines. And I said, oh, I'm a ShelterBox ambassador, and we respond an average of 3 disasters a year in the Philippines. And we have now a big warehouse in the Philippines and an office there. And she looked up at me and said, are you the ones that do the big white tents? And I said, yes. And she said, you sheltered me and my grandmother 10 years ago. And that just, I didn't think I would ever run into a beneficiary. But when she told me that, there was tears coming out of my eyes,
yes,
and just thanking her for letting me know that. So things like that keep me going.
Right, it keeps you going. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Because one thing about it, it's important work, but it's also, to me, can be a lot on you because you are very concerned. You want to make sure it all works, and and helping people. And you spoke about your greatest joy. So people now know how to get involved, and they know what they can do. And you're very dedicated, which is like incredible. So in terms of next steps for ShelterBox, what's the vision for the next, in terms of the strategic plan, the overall, where does ShelterBox see itself going?
Well, they have big plans. One of their goals is to try to reach sheltering 1 million people a year, which is one of those gigantic goals, but they are passionate. And you can see our president of ShelterBox USA is Carrie Murray. She is regularly on CNN. She's one of the go-to people after a disaster or in a conflict zone. They will interview her because she is so knowledgeable. And she's got some huge plans for ShelterBox to reach out. And some of those I'm excited I'm going to be learning more about in New Orleans at our 25th anniversary conference. So stay tuned. We're learning more all the time.
Oh, this is wonderful. What a privilege it is to interview you. You know, Mark, I can't thank you for the wonderful work that you do with ShelterBox, and as a Rotarian too, which is like wonderful. So thanks again for being on Ingrid's World and talking about ShelterBox. And feel free to come back again, because I think you're inspiring all of us to do more for our fellow man.
Thank you so much. It's certainly been my pleasure, and I look forward to coming back.
Thank you. I hope your viewers enjoyed ShelterBox presentation done by Mark Cooke. It was inspirational. I love the vision of ShelterBox USA, a world where no family is without shelter when disaster strikes. I have to thank you, Mark, for your spirit, your hard work, and dedication. My inspirational quote is from President Jimmy Carter. Spirit is like the wind, in that we can see it, but we can see its effects, which are profound. I really appreciate you watching the show, and I hope that you will connect with me on Facebook at Ingrid's World, or follow the show at Ingrid's World VA in X and Instagram. And yes, you can find me on YouTube at Ingrid's World LLC YouTube channel and ingridsworld.org. Thanks for watching.